Hello, my name is Eric Vaughn, and I'm an undergraduate student here at Radford University in the Criminal Justice Program. Today's presentation is on use of force, concerns, and policies for the class CRJ 495, Critical Perspectives in Criminal Justice, with Professor Eric Snow. I'll give you a moment to review the objectives of today's presentation. Okay, the first current concern to discuss on police officer use of force relates to the media's part in reporting police officer use of force. There is a new age media coverage of police officer use of force that is becoming a growing concern and obstacle for police departments in the United States. Police departments have been heavily scrutinized and pushed for big departmental changes because of media's reporting. The people have noticed this media reporting, however, and in many cases there has been a general decline in trustworthiness of the media. One of the big importance is how the media has reported visual depictions of the use of force. Citizens who have limited experience with law enforcement witness these emotionally charged videos with hardly any context. This leads citizens to question police departments' use of force tactics. In another study that performed a content analysis, similar results were found. The content analysis showed very alarming and powerful results. That is, when the media frames the facts of a case appear as case brutality and/or racist behavior, then citizens felt that excessive force was used. The case in mind was often made worse if body camera footage was not released in time, which often shows how the incident actually happened. Now this presentation will look at the prevalence of police officer use of force. It is not as prevalent as the media makes it out to be. When reviewing the data on police officer on civilian shootings, there is not evidence to show there has been an increase in shootings by police officers. In one study, it reviewed several thousand use of force cases. The researchers coded 1 as equating to no force utilized, and a 3 equaling the highest force possible. In their findings, they found that the average use of force by police officers was 1.7 out of the possible 3. What better to review how police officer use of force can result in rioting other than what happened in the case of Michael Brown? But a historical timeline is needed to understand it. It was in Missouri. Smith 2015 details the early beginnings of slavery that began racial tension. Smith describes the heavy control of whites and African Americans that created much tension for African Americans and whites. It was also in a Missouri Circuit Court and later the Supreme Court one will see the famous Dred Scott denied his free status. The author also details the racist Jim Crow laws that further created heavy racial tension between whites and African Americans. It is this history that caused Michael Brown shooting to boil over into rioting afterwards, according to Smith. It was those historical underpinnings and what happened with Michael Brown that caused the African American community in Ferguson to become heavily upset. Actual excessive use of force by police officers or perceived excessive force has serious consequences. As it relates to crime theory, two important theories are relevant. Critical race theory and African American offending are those two crime theories. They can be summarized in the following. African American youth report a significantly higher level of discrimination from police than other racial groups and are more likely to be negatively impacted by this than other racial groups. Walker, Spohn, and DeLone 2018, page 81. And rioting could be preceded by perceptions of microaggressions. For example, discriminatory behavior by police officers and criminal justice injustices, such as the unarmed shooting of Michael Brown. Walker, Spohn, and DeLone 2018, page 81. Relevant research on these theories show that they do end in more serious and violent offending. Here we discuss the policy sections of use of force. Here you see the policing basics. The section on constitutional policing relates to the idea that police officers must engage in conduct that is in line with the United States Constitution. For example, needing certain levels of suspicion to be able to stop anyone while out on patrol. Of particular focus, the section officer hiring relates to the issues of violence or moral turpitude. You can't have an officer that is extremely violent, or you can't have an officer that is a liar. Officer training to include common methods involving community policing with nearly 12 hours focusing on diversity, human relations, and 8 hours on mediation skills and conflict management. The section Community Liaisons details instances where police departments have personnel dedicated to reaching out to the community on social issues such as crime and officer misconduct. The section Local Policing Priorities maintains that policing priorities and culture that reflects the idea of community policing are helpful. This section, Community Policing, brings together all the previously mentioned examples on policing, such as officer hiring, training, policing priorities, and effective communication that ensures that the public understand the community is safe. It's pretty much the catch-all portion of policing basics that pretty much synthesizes all of the previously mentioned examples of policing basics. It is just the thorough plan that brings all of these qualities for a police officer and the department together. Shane 2018 brings into debate the possibility of implementing a national database on use of force incidents. The author of the article states that if it were to work, then agencies must participate. Shane 2018 maintains that this database could spark dialogue between the citizens and police to truly understand what happened in an incident and to show maybe a use of force policy is not actually working. To better understand the policy of use of force by police departments, the use of force policy by the Virginia Beach Police Department is reviewed here. In their policy, they define force, reasonable belief, objectable reasonable force, serious bodily harm, and deadly force. This shows in writing that the department is willing to hold their officers accountable, and it gives confidence to the public that the department is going to hold their officers accountable. It indicates what they are and what circumstances they are to be utilized. One of the philosophies of the Virginia Beach Police Department is that officers shall treat all members of the public with dignity, respect, and in adherence with the rights and liberties by the United States Constitution and the Constitution and laws of the Commonwealth of Virginia. Use of force is an objectively reasonable force to preserve the safety of officers and those around them. It must agree with the force continuum, such as an officer being able to utilize a firearm in response to a criminal who is also using a firearm. The Virginia Police Department has this idea of officers often utilizing force that's less than lethal force. Officers must file a report and they are reassigned pending an investigation. To come back to full duty, officers must submit to a psychological evaluation. Officers must intervene in situations where another officer is not reasonably utilizing appropriate use of force. This concludes the presentation on use of force, concerns, and policies. Thank you for your time.